with Scottian from Anthrax. Thanks for taking the time out to talk to us, man.
No worries, you're not German.
No, I'm from New Zealand.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah. We're here to talk about the book, I'm the Man, that guy from Anthrax, and the new album that's coming out February 26th, For All Kings. So I saw a interview a while back, and you were saying that you didn't, a few years ago, you didn't want to do a book, another rock and roll book. So why did you not want to do one then, and what changed your mind?
I just really didn't know if I had a story to tell. Honestly, I just, having read other books by guys in bands, a lot of them just seem to have a very similar story arc of the rise to fame, the sex, drugs, the rock and roll, the losing everything, you know, and then like somehow redeeming, you know, or coming back from it. But I was like, I don't have that story at all. Because like I said earlier, like Motley Crue did The Dirt. Yeah. And if you can't top that,
yeah,
like if you can't top Marilyn Manson's book, then, you know, what would be the point of even like, yeah, I did drugs. Like, who cares? Like, they did it better than you. Their book's better, you know? Like, so instead of having that be the focus, because I don't have that story, maybe my focus will be on just this fucking tenacious prick from Queens who just refused to say no and, like, made it happen, you know, made his band happen. And how I did that, and how somehow I was able to make that happen in my life, and it turned out there really was a story. So in a sense, was the fact that I'm so bad at doing drugs becomes funny, because other bands' crazy drug stories, looking back at them, especially if they survived the whole thing, they came out the other side, like a guy like Nikki Sixx, who, you know, survived and has come out better for it as a human, having experienced all that insanity. You know, I never had any of that. I was really, really bad at it, so therefore it's just inherently funny.
Definitely, and with the drinking as well, you were never drinking a lot,
right, until
you got older, which is the exact opposite of everyone else's story. They're going hard when they're young in their 20s, and you started power drinking in your like 30s, or was it early 30s or
mid 30s
kind of, which is also hilarious because it's mostly, I'd say, thanks to Dimebag, really, that made you want to start death drinking, because he did it so well.
If we didn't tour with Pantera in 97, 98, I could safely say, I mean, maybe at some point I would have started, but it would have still been even more years. I would have started even later. And I wouldn't have just started drinking whiskey on my own, let's put it that way.
Probably wouldn't have been inspired by anyone else to do it, because he was so bloody good at it that you're like, I want to hang out with that guy.
No, as a matter of fact, he was the only one who could get me to
do it.
Because any other times I was around, I was around since my late teens. I was around booze and drugs constantly, around it, just never wanted to partake. I wasn't good at it. And certainly even in my 30s, I was around it all the time. I'd go out to bars, you know, all the time, fancy clubs and all that kind of shit, but I wasn't drinking. You know, I had the opportunity, it's just I was never interested.
But did Dime make it look so funny that you just wanted to do it with him or something? Because that's kind of how it sounded.
Dimebag made it look like Disney World, It just somewhere, you want to be involved from the time you're 4 until you're 80. It's something that he just made it look. He made drinking look like Disney World.
It's beautiful. In the forward of the book, I love that you got Kirk Hammett doing it. You guys have been friends for well over 30 years, good friends. Was he your first and only option, or did you have other people in mind to do the forward?
My first real and only real option. If Stephen King would have done it, I certainly wouldn't have complained about that. But I mean, in reality, that wasn't going to happen. So. And it wouldn't have made much sense. I don't know Stephen King. He doesn't know me, you know, other than I'm obviously... No, I've never met him.
Oh, really?
Obviously, I'm a fan of his work, and he's been in print saying he's a fan of Anthrax. So,
awesome.
But it just made sense because I've known Kirk longer than I've even known some of the guys in Anthrax. We grew up together in this world, so who better than to write a foreword for the book than someone who knows it and really understands what I've been through in the worlds that we've existed in since 1983.
Yeah, it's cool that on a different note that you go through every album and the procedure and what was going on in your life at that time. and it sounds like your least favorite Anthrax album was State of Euphoria. Or
Yes.
Yeah. That's the album that got me into Anthrax. I fucking love that album, and that's,
A lot of people.
yeah. When I hear Be All End All, that just takes me back to being 15 straight away.
I love that song. I have no problem with half the record. It wasn't finished. We should have written for another 6 months because we rushed ourselves because we had a tour with Iron Maiden in the summer of 1988, and the record had to be done, and before we left for tour, and because of our schedule. So we rushed it, and I just listened to songs on that record, and I know they're not finished. I know they needed a little bit more time in the oven.
They sound like well-recorded demos to you, or something.
Yeah, they're just not where they should be. They don't sound like finished songs to me.
Yeah.
We were just still in the process of working on them, and we settled. We just said, okay, like we're done. We're going in, and I just know. That's why I have no problem with half the record. It's half of it I have a big problem with because it just doesn't sound finished to me.
I think that's beautiful though, that you can release a record that you know isn't finished and you don't really like it, but some people that's their favorite album and that changed their life in some kind of way.
So I always imagine what it would have been if there would have been 9 finished songs on that album.
Yeah.
It would have been like,
boom.
It would have been Back in Black.
Yeah. Awesome. And you stopped that to go on tour with Iron Maiden, which was one of the bands that changed your life in the beginning. And you're going on tour with them again early next year through South America, or is it just South America?
Mexico, Latin America, South America.
Yeah. And you guys haven't been to New Zealand since...
Long time.
96, April 24th it was. I was there and met you there, and that was an amazing show playing with Psycho Maiko, I think.
We were just talking about that tour the other day.
So do you have any plans maybe on the next album to go to New Zealand again? Because it's been...
It's not up to us.
Oh, yeah.
You know how it works. A promoter has to make you an offer to come play a show, and those offers just haven't been there since 1996. Not for lack of trying on our part, where we say, can we get back to New Zealand? We're going to Australia. Can we get there? And there's never an offer. So I don't know what the problem is.
So someone in New Zealand,
we want to
get
come.
A promoter and get hold of them and get them down here. It's not their fault.
I could safely say we'll be in Australia on the next record, and we would love to come back to New Zealand.
So when you were writing worship music and recording it, did you start recording before Joey was back in the band, or?
Yeah, that album was. We pretty much finished the record, and then when Joey came back, we had been sitting on a record. We had been sitting on it for like 9 months or something. And then when Joey came back in the band, we were actually out on tour in the States in the fall of 2010 with Slayer and Megadeth, and that's when every day we'd go in the dressing room and we'd have practice amps set up, and we'd put on a song and we'd start listening to it and start fucking around with it. And by the time that tour was over, we had made a bunch of changes in songs and arrangement changes, and knew we were moving forward with Joey singing on the record, and then went in, re-recorded some stuff, and then Joey sang the whole thing.
That's cool, because listening to it, it sounds like it was meant to be Joey the whole time. Like, I mean, that's because that's the only way we've ever heard it, but it totally sounds like that.
No, it totally makes sense. Once his voice was on those tracks, it sounded the same way to us. It just completely made sense that Joey was back in the band, and any question we ever had of what would Joey sound like in New Anthrax was certainly answered. First song we heard was I'm Alive, and we were all freaking out how good it sounded. And then
just after the Big Four stuff had happened, and then, because as soon as I saw you guys at the Poland show, the first Big Four, I was like, there's got to be a new album if this is going to come out.
Well, of course, that was definitely the plan.
And then it came out, and it was exactly what classic Anthrax fans wanted. It was just
cool.
Perfect. But yeah, the book is fucking amazing. I've read so many books, and this is easily my favorite. There's amazing highs and totally tragic lows. With being a fan of Cliff Burton, he's my favorite musician ever, and Dimebag Darrell as well. For fans who read about that stuff, it's tragic reading it, but that's nothing compared to for you and other guys that knew him, and you're close friends. You were close friends with both of those guys, and
it's hard to,
like
look, I was just friends with them. I mean, you think about their bandmates, you think about their families. All I did was just try and express my emotions, having been there on tour with Metallica when Cliff was killed. Certainly closer in that situation physically. You know, we were on tour together.
Yeah.
I wasn't on tour with Darrell when he was murdered.
But you done
but
3 albums.
we were certainly, yes, we were good friends, and yeah, he had played on 3. You know, there was a very tight relationship between us and Darrell, so yeah, and all I could do in the book is just try and express my feelings and emotions for 2 wonderful people, you know, and get the point across. But in no way does it even really. I'm not a good enough wordsmith to put into words what those emotions really, you know, feel like in the pit of your stomach. You know, maybe there's poets out there who could maybe get it across better than I can, but yeah. And with all that, I've been lucky enough that, you know, if those are the worst tragedies in my life, I consider myself lucky. You know, I mean, and I don't mean that in a negative way in any shape or form, because it doesn't. I'm not slighting Darrell and Cliff dying, but just in my life, somehow I've avoided a lot of that. I have a lot of other friends who've, whether it's family members or children or, you know, just so many other horribly tragic things happening in their lives. And, you know, I'm talking about a chapter in my book about my friend who was horribly murdered, you know. Yeah. It's fucking horrible. And I'm just trying to get across my feelings for it as best I can. But it just doesn't do it justice. For me, anyway. Yeah. You know, there's no way he could ever really express the pain that it caused for his family and his brother. I mean, Jesus Christ, you know, like I've tried to put myself in Vinny's shoes sometimes, and it's
impossible. Yeah,
you can't. My relationship to that situation, to Darrell dying, it's so minuscule compared to, you know, his family's relationship to it. So that's why I try not to make a big deal out of it, because it's really not my place to.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying.
That's fair enough. The one thing that shocked me, like jaw-dropping, shocked in the book, was when you're talking with Cliff and Kirk and James, and they're talking about kicking Lars out after the tour. Like, I couldn't believe not only that happened, but also that it was in your book. But later I learned that it's not common knowledge, but a lot of people know about that. Lars knows about that.
Yeah, I didn't out that story.
Yeah.
If that was a story no one had ever heard, I would have never have had it in my book, because it wouldn't have been my place to, you know, make that public. But that story's been out there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So it just, for me, it was totally in context with that part of the book, with my relationship with Cliff, because it was Cliff who was doing all the talking that night.
Yeah.
That was like kind of Cliff's role in the band at the time, and so I'm talking about Cliff, and it was in context of, you know, that whole story. So, but yeah, like I said, if nobody knew that, if that was a secret, it wouldn't have been in my book.
Aside from the book, with the recording of this new album, was it different to the other albums you've done with Joey, or was it you doing all the lyrics again? And
no, process-wise, it was very much the same.
Yeah.
The way we've always worked with Frankie, Charlie, and I getting in a room together and starting to arrange music, and then it all branching out from there. Once we have songs arranged, sending them to John for John to work on solos, and then coming up with melody ideas, and then me working on the lyrics, and then getting it all to Joey, and then Joey going in the room with Jay Rustin, the producer, just like he did on Worship, and basically then Joey doing the vocals. None of us were there last album or this album. We just kind of let Joey go do his thing with Jay in the room, and it's been working great. It worked great on Worship Music, and it worked even better on this record. So it's kind of like, you know, the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Congratulations on the book. It's fucking amazing, man.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
You can certainly find it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Yeah, order it. Just get it. We guarantee you'll love it. It's brilliant.
It's got lots of pictures too.
Yeah, classics. Thanks so much, Scott. Congratulations and
Cheers.
all the best.
Hey, congrats on the All Blacks.
Fuck yeah. First team to win it twice in a row. Thanks, man.